Hello, my name is Christian, and that's just to be my topic discussion for the Sustainable Development Goals (SDG) on Sustainable Development Goal 16, which is peace, justice, and strong institution. Goal 16 is about promoting peaceful and inclusive societies, providing access to justice for all, and then building effective and accountable, inclusive institutions at all levels. People everywhere should be free from fear from all forms of violence to feel safe as they go about their daily lives, whether their ethnicity, their faith, or sexual orientation. However, ongoing and new violent conflicts around the world are derailing the global path to peace and achievement of Goal 16. Alarmingly, in the year 2022, when this a more than 50% increase in conflict-related civilians' deaths, the first since the adoption of the Agenda of 2030, largely due to the war in Ukraine. High levels of armed violence and insecurity have destructive impact on the country development. While sexual violence, crime, exploitation, and torture are prevalent where there is conflict or no rule of law, and countries must take measure to protect those who are most at risk. Governments and civil societies and communities need to work together to find lasting solutions to conflict and insecurity, strengthening the world of law and promoting human rights is a key to this process, as is reducing the flow of illicit arms, combating corruption, and ensuring inclusive partnership participation at all times. Why should I care? High levels of armed violence and security have a destructive impact on the country development. Sexual violence, crimes, exploitations, and torture prevalent where there is no conflict rule of law. Goal 16 aligns with broader human rights framework by promoting societies that respect and uphold individual rights, as well as the right to privacy, freedom of expression, and access to information. Peace is a fundamental precondition for social and economic development. Without peace, societies are often plagued by conflict, violence, and instability, which can hinder the progress and result to the loss of lives and resources. Equal access to justice is essential for protecting the rights of individuals, resulting in pursuit and ensuring the vulnerable population are not marginalized or mistreated. Crimes threatening peace and peaceful societies, including homicide, trafficking, and other organized crimes, as well as discriminatory laws or practices, affect all countries. What if we don't take action? Armed violence and insecurities have a destructive impact on country development, as they're affecting economic growth and often resulting in long-standing of grievance among the communities. Violence also affects children, health, and development, and well-being, and their ability to thrive. It causes trauma and weakness in social inclusion. Lack of access to justice means that conflict remain unresolved in peace, and people cannot obtain protection and redress. Institutions that do not function according to the legitimate laws are prone to an arbitrariness and abuse of power. We're less capable of delivering the public service to everyone. To exclude and to discriminate not only violates human rights, but also causes resentment and animosity and could give rise to violence. What can we do? Exercise your rights to hold the elected officials to account, to freedom of information, and to share opinions with your elected representatives. Promote inclusion, and respect the words of people, different gender, ethnicity, ethnic, or religion or sexual orientation, and different opinions. Promote an inclusive society. An ecosystem of government provides access to justice for all and builds effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. Conflict-related civilians' death, with an overall over 50% surge in 2022 fueled by war in Ukraine. The highest number of intentional 408,000 lives lost. 9 and 9 victims were male. 108.4 million people have been forcibly displaced worldwide, and in 2022, and 2.5 the number a decade ago. 200,000 trafficking were detected worldwide between 2017 and 2020. Many were or likely to remain undetected. Goal 16 was seen as a truly transformative, formally linking for the first time at the United Nations, development, peace, justice, and good governance. Some of it are ambitious targets include significant reducing all forms of violence and abuse and violence against children, promoting the rule of law, reducing illicit financial flows and corruption, and developing accountable and as well institutions. Rule 16 was not adopted without controversy. Many countries argue against between choosing of peace and security, even more so justice. Just in consideration the development of this sphere, and that would have preferred that the goal be dropped altogether. Other countries maintain that this goal was central for them and that their support for the 2030 agenda is hanged upon it. Nearly 3 years later, the progress of Goal 16 is uneven, and there is considerable doubt that it can be achieved in the current implementation rate. Canada is more likely to become more acute according to current trends, particularly those related in violence. Violence worldwide is on the rise, are becoming increasingly in context and multidimensional. Almost half the world people have been affected by political violence. Over the last 15 years, the lower income countries bearing the disproportionately high share burdens of armed violence. Yet developed countries are not immune in many parts of the development world. Different forms of violence are also on the rise. Canada itself faces domestic challenges and addresses issues of violence, homicide, and particularly against women and children. Canada is facing challenges in other related areas of Goal 16. Issues for Indigenous people. Indigenous people have been much debated. Issues for justice for Indigenous people have much been debated for since insufficiently addressed over the past 4 decades. Comprehensively combating transnational organized in crime, illicit financial flows, illicit for goals as well in Canada as well. The challenge will be linking these subnational parties with national strategies. A common independent for countries attempting to implement Goal 16 is a yawning gasp for this reliable data, making it difficult to measure the progress in meeting. The goal's target is to fragile and in conflict affected states in particular often have incomplete, imperfect, and total lack of data. The countries of the world very hugely need the compassion to monitor and track indicator. Moreover, obstacles to reaching the Goal 16, SDG 16, is increasingly encountered in urban areas. Population cities are expected to increase to almost 70% by 2050, and cities registering height and homicide rates in rural areas. Challenges found within the vital cities characterized by rapid and regulated urbanized and high levels of inequality, and the employment of violence, poor access to the key service and exposure to climate threats and means Goal 16 for Goal 16. Goal 16 must be addressed in a subsessional level. In this context, one of the most possible approach is to accelerate the pace of implementation to linking national and local levels of policies, providing greater support to exceptional governments and institutions. Local and regional governments or other countries have already recognized this, arguing that new substitutional agreements arrangements of the channel accordance for Goal 16. For sustainable development provides access to justice for all and builds effective account and inclusive institutions. Achieving implementation of Goal 16 is a daunting task globally, for poor countries in particularly. The plan NOAA of targets and indicators aiming to guide them tends to create white noise. Some countries have been felt dispowered and by ambition and widespread spectrum of the 2030 agenda, and much as they have been able to harness its potentials for an energized society. This have represented an obvious downside in practice of the United Nations, otherwise admirable offered design of the capacity agenda. National governments will get showcased in their achievement and their United Nations high levels of political forums, which is reviewing Goal 16 in 2019. Until then, greater effort is required nearly everywhere. Achievement and implementation of national policies towards this goal. Improve links to move us in all the right directions.